Lowell native and Riverbank Run paracyclist Kate Brim is invited to join the US Paracycling Team. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm News 8 digital anchor Luke Laster here from the Wood TV live desk. Joining me this morning is Kate herself for more on the invite and her story. Kate, good morning.
Morning.
Kate, now we had you at the live desk in person back right before Riverbank Run. How has it been since then? How was the race for you? And where are you at right now before we dive in a little bit to your invite?
Yeah, the Riverbank Run went really well. I had set a pretty out there goal to get under an hour, and I actually managed to do that very easily. I believe I did it in 52 minutes. I averaged it was 17.2 miles an hour for the race, which was way faster than I had done the previous year. And so I was very pleased with those results, and yeah, it was very exciting. And then as far as like the rest of the year, I've done quite a few races already. I did the Huntsville Open, and that was kind of my first introduction to like hand cycling specific racing. And then I also just got back from nationals that was hosted in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And it was a really, really rough course. It was a very hilly course, and it also was raining for the hand cycle division. So we had some pretty crazy terrain along with some rain. But it was a really fast course, and it went really well for me.
So since Riverbank Run, 3 races then, correct?
Yeah, 3. There's been a handful. It's terrible. I've told people I have been out of Michigan more than I have been in Michigan between hand cycling and rugby. And so I honestly lose track of, what all I've done until I go back and look at pictures and stuff. And yeah.
So between all those races and and rugby as well, how did Team USA come about? How did you get reached out to after the Riverbank Run? Was it after one of the other races sometime in the past, few months here? Run me through that.
Yeah. So so the US Paracycling Team, they host 2 events typically every year, which was the Huntsville Open and the National Championships. And the US Paracycling Team, they have standards that you're supposed to hit. And with those standards, if you're able to hit them, then that kind of opens you up to a slot possibly for being selected for things like the World Cup and World Championships. And it happened to be that I actually was one of those individuals who did hit their standard. And it resulted in me being selected to be on their roster for the next World Cup and the World Championships.
Run me through your feelings on that when that happened to you.
It was absolutely surreal. Like I still honestly feel like I'm in a daydream. Just even all the setup that we've had for it the last week and a half. Everything we do, I'm like, I can't believe this is actually happening. It was a shock for sure. I kind of feel like I'm just in a daydream, honestly. It's I'm very proud of the major accomplishments I've made, but also I'm just excited for the opportunity. I've always told everyone, I go into every race, I'm going to do the best I can, but I'm going to soak in as much information and as much knowledge as I possibly can. And just go into it with as much of an open mind as I can.
Tell me about the past week and a half. You mentioned it feeling surreal. What has happened the past week and a half there?
We've been discussing the logistics of travel and stuff, and I got my kits and stuff for the World Cup and World Championships. When a lot of it was happening, I was actually in Colorado Springs at the US Paralympic and Olympic Training Center for a talent ID camp. And so that was a whole nother experience that I was invited to. And it was absolutely amazing being able to train out in Colorado Springs at altitude at one of the Olympic and Paralympic training centers alongside other people who are, very successful with their sports. That was the really cool part, is at that center is they have all sorts of sports that train there, from shooting, triathlon, swimming, cycling, boxing, all of it. Like it was really cool to just be amongst a bunch of people who, are all in the same mindset as you and who have like the same ambitions and goals as you.
Tell me about that training there in Colorado. To my understanding, you just got back, correct?
I did, yeah, yep. It's I have a little pit stop back in here in Michigan for a couple days before we head out to Quebec. And yeah, so the training out there, initially I was like pretty nervous just because it was at altitude. Our base was about 5,500, 6,000 feet. And we got all the way up to easily over 7,000 feet of elevation gain. I had a couple times where I felt it a bit, but no, I actually surprised myself and was able to perform very well out there as far as being able to soak in all the good training.
How has your training evolved? So, like, for example, we'll just go through, like, because viewers are familiar with the Riverbank Run. How does your training for a race like the Riverbank Run transfer to something like this with Team USA?
Yeah, so I actually recently just signed on with a coach, and that was also a pretty big step for me. I up until about a month and a half ago, I did not have a coach. I was doing everything myself as far as training and programming for my training and structure. And so that was a big step for me to like sign on with a coach. And with that, I was really able to start to see like, okay, where are my weaknesses? What do I need to work on? Where are my strengths? And then also be able to really dial in the training for each race that I do. Because each race that I do has been, a little different, whether it's the amount of elevation I'm doing, the distance I'm doing. So like the Huntsville race, it was a relatively flat course, but it was windy and stuff. Whereas national championships, it was approximately a 5-mile loop with a little over 500 feet of elevation gain.
So obviously a big notch in your belt. Tell me about your personal expectations going into a race of this caliber, participating on a team of this caliber. What are you personally hoping for and expecting from yourself?
I had kind of mentioned before, every race I've done, I have tried to go into it as open-minded as I can. I'm so new to this sport. I've barely been competing a year and I'm still learning so much. So I've always told myself each race I go into, I haven't really set many goals except for to do the best that I can and to soak in as much information and learn as much as I can. Because, I'm still figuring out what my potential is and what all I'm capable of. I still have so much to see as far as terrain and areas of racing. I've learned every race I've done this year. I've taken in so much information and learned so much from the races. And so I hope to be able to continue to do that, and then also just enjoy it as much as possible and hope that I can perform to the best of my abilities.
Going back to your training and participation with Mary Freebed on their Handcycle team, you participated in rugby too, if I remember correctly. How has that helped prepare you kind of for where you're at right now?
Yeah, so when I was first injured, it happened to be the rehab hospital I was sent to was Mary Freebed, and I was very fortunate that Mary Free Bed really strives to get individuals, you know, living as fulfilling of a life as they can, despite their circumstances. And they've done an amazing job of that with getting people involved in adaptive sports, activities with the public, all of that. And so I was very fortunate that relatively soon after my injury, I was introduced to rugby and then also hand cycling. And from there, they made it possible so that I could keep continuing it rather than just trying. I could continue to keep trying, continue to keep participating in it. And so, for rugby, I've been using one of Mary Free Bed's rugby chairs from Nick Long, the head coach. And then also for hand cycling, I've also been using a borrowed hand cycle for the time being. And that wouldn't be possible without Mary Free Bed and the people behind them.
Tell me a bit about, do you have any mentors, any people who have really kind of helped you along the way, or even now with your training with Team USA?
Yeah. My coach from rugby, Nick Long, he really has kind of kept me under his wing as far as getting me exposed to as much as possible and helping me through the struggles and helping me, just learn how to manage all of this as efficiently and as safely and as best as possible. Honestly, without, Nick and Mary Free Bed and all the people behind Mary Free Bed, I really do not know. Like, my life would be completely different without them. So I've always held on to that statement of, I'm very fortunate that it happened to be that Mary Free Bed is right in my backyard.
So I want to go over, as we kind of wrap up here, I want to go over important dates, races, what we have here in the coming months, or even longer than that. What is the next race, and is it with Team USA?
Yeah, so my next races are, the first one is the World Cup #3 in Quebec. That is happening the 4th through the 7th. And then the second one is the World Championships. That is the 11th through the 14th, I believe. And both of those, you can look up UCI Paracycling over Google, and then you should be able to find the routes to be able to find results and everyone who's racing in both of those races. And yeah, so those are the next two big races for me.
And those are with Team USA?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent.
Those are the ones that are with Team USA.
So, I mean, that's coming up here pretty quickly and pretty back to back as well. So what happens after those races? Where do you go from there?
So after those races, it's kind of up in the air. I am actually looking at their residency program out in Colorado Springs at the Olympic and Paralympic Training Center. And then I would reside there for a while to continue my training and just get as much education on the whole cycling at an elite level. Because there's a lot involved with cycling at that high level. Just from the logistical sides and also the physical and the mental sides of it. And so that's been my number one focus, just going about all of this as safely and wisely as possible. So when I heard about this residency program, it was seemed like a really good opportunity that I might be able to take on. So that we're looking into the near future. Yeah.
Kate, one last question for you. You've been training with, I apologize if I pronounce her name wrong, Sarah Hammer Crone. How has that been for you?
Yeah, so actually we just got in touch over in Colorado Springs when I was at the Talent ID camp, and the short week that I was with her, I learned so much from her and all the staff that were hosting that Talent ID camp. And she will actually be at the World Cup and World Championships, supporting the athletes alongside there. And she's been a huge wealth of knowledge alongside all the other staff that were there in Colorado Springs. And it's, like I've said before, every event I've done involving hand cycling, I've taken in so much information and learned so much like knowledge that, I know I would have never gained had I not taken the experiences. And so, yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, just for reference, Sarah is I believe, a 4-time silver medal winning Olympic cyclist. So some good company, I would say, to be there with Kate. Kate, is there anything else that you would like to add or put out there as we wrap up?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you tuned in maybe halfway through this stream or just now clicking in, you're viewing on Facebook, there's a link attached. It takes you over to woodtv.com. You can view our full conversation right there. Kate, thank you. Good luck to you. And it's always great to hear from you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, this has been a look at the Wood TV Live Desk. I'm News 8 digital anchor Luke Laster. Have a great morning, a great afternoon, and we'll see you around. Thanks.